Alright, here we are yet again on another thrift store adventure. I figured there'd be a lot more stuff this time around since it's, tax season and all. Oh, and I did go to a pawn shop for the first time ever, so there's footage of that towards the end here. Either way, let's get this show on the road, as they say. What the hell. Magic 8 Ball. Will I find any deals this time around? Outlook not so good? Oh, well, thanks anyway. I've been seeing a lot more of these Kinects lately, and they're always priced super cheap now. I have one myself, and I never realized that the older models of Xboxes, which is what I have, well, they don't have a port to use the Kinect. So until I get a newer 360, I can't use the Kinect or its games at all. But look, there's some collectible NSYNC figures to brighten up my day. You can't really see all that well here. There's a couple of Atari and various Nintendo games in the glass case. This Goodwill, for whatever reason, was pricier than most in my area. Like, usually I can find games at Goodwill for $2 a piece, but this place normally charges $3 or higher. Because of that, the only game I ended up buying was this Tetris game. I recently bought 6 Atari games for $5 total at a local game store by my house, so I wasn't about to pay $3 a pop here. This other Goodwill actually had more games than usual, mostly sports titles of course, but look, there's a copy of Shepards Crossing for the PS2, and it was in really good condition. I really should have bought it. I mean, I have a brand new copy at home I bought for dirt cheap a year or two ago, but I don't want to open it. Clearly when I was looking at this I didn't think about that. I know people give Call of Duty a lot of shit, including myself, especially after Ghosts was released however many years ago, but I can honestly say that I thoroughly enjoyed Black Ops 2. I guess part of that has to do with the fact that I had a solid group back then, and we would play the game all the time, just totally destroy the other teams. I remember my friend Shelby and I would get hate mail and death threats every so often whenever we would play multi-team hardpoint, because we knew how to abuse the point system in that game. We would end up getting like VStats up all the time with swarms in between and whatever else we ran. God, those were some really good days. Not nearly as good as the Call of Duty 4 ones, but still, those were some fun times. Wow, this is the first time I've ever seen laser discs at a thrift store before. I have no idea if $8 is a good deal on them though. Any of you collectors out there would have to tell me. I haven't seen this plug and play in ages. And it's definitely seen some shit. I mean, it's scuffed up everywhere, the labels are faded. Still works though. Shame it wasn't in better condition, I would have been all over it. There's 2 GPSs in the case here. One was $8 and the other I think was like $4 or $5, and I completely regret not picking one of them up because I'm actually in need of a cheap working GPS for my motorcycle. Yeah, I do have my phone that's mounted to the thing, but I really don't feel comfortable having my not cheap cell phone mounted to the handlebars going 60 plus miles an hour. It scares the shit out of me, to be honest. When I picked up that Star Wars one, I noticed a loud rattling sound coming from inside. Usually these things are built like frickin' tanks. I mean, I've never come across a plug and play that didn't work. Maybe there's just some plastic piece that broke apart inside or something. Who knows? This next place is a new one for me. It's actually very similar to another thrift store I used to go to pretty often back when I lived in Illinois. They're a non-for-profit thrift store that helps local animal welfare organizations. They had really good prices on almost every single thing I picked up. They did have a decent variety of games, but the two that I was really interested in, those being the Scooby-Doo game and Flat Out 2, were so scratched up. And even for the games being $1 a piece, I know that due to how damaged they were, a resurfacing machine wasn't going to make the games even slightly playable again. It bummed me out a little bit, but hey, it is what it is. Okay, I didn't expect to see a good-sized stack of game guides here. Wow. And guides for games I actually enjoy, like Urban Reign, iNinja, Shadow Ops, and Full Spectrum Warrior. They're only 59 cents each. Yeah, screw it, I'll buy all of them. This Goodwill didn't have anything for games really, but I found this strange Welcome to the PS3 Blu-ray Disc. Was this a thing that came with the original system or something? Because I've never seen this before. Good God, look at all the game systems here. Two older Xbox 360s for 20 bucks each, an original Xbox for 15, there's a slim PS2 in the bag there that you can't even see for 20, and a Game Boy SP for 15. I know what you all are thinking, buy them all. Thing is, I already have multiples of each system as it is. Plus, I still need to put a good amount of shit on eBay that I've been delaying for, God, like a year or two now. Only because I really hate selling on eBay. I hope someone gets enjoyment out of the systems though. Well, that and I hope they actually work. This Salvation Army had a lot of Xbox games, and every single one I looked at was in good condition, and there's some really good titles here, like 007 Nightfire, Dead to Rights, Ghost Recon Island Thunder, and that America's Army game isn't that bad either. Problem is, I have all these games though. Otherwise, I probably would have bought most if not all of them. It was half off day at the Goodwill today, and I just happened to come across this At Games Sega Genesis plug-and-play type thing. It doesn't have the controllers or the AV cables, which is totally fine because I have plenty of my own. I think this is the very same system that people complain about having poor emulation as far as the music and sound effects being off. I don't know. For $7.50, it might be worth making a video on at some point. Okay, so here is a little bit of that pawn shop footage I promised. Again, I've never been to one of these before, so I didn't know what to expect. The first thing that really caught my eye was all these guitars here, specifically that gorgeous black and yellow bass. I think it might have been 350 bucks maybe. I totally forgot who made the thing, but man did it look cool. So this is pretty interesting. It's an 04 Yamaha Vstar motorcycle for $3,200. Now, I own a 1985 European imported Yamaha Virago 500, which is, I believe, the predecessor to the Vstar and Roadstar Yamaha bikes. I also just recently picked up a 1988 VMAX 1200 in excellent condition, but I've always really liked the Vstar bikes, and I would love to own one at some point. They did have a good assortment of video games, and they were pretty damn cheap on them. I know you can't make anything out on video here since the games were far away, but I ended up grabbing 3 games. Deadpool, Mortal Kombat XL for the PS4, and Freedom Wars on the Vita. All together for only 15 bucks. That's an incredible deal. I've never been all that much of a Mortal Kombat fan, honestly. I've said it a couple times before, I'm absolutely terrible at Mortal Kombat games. But you know what? I'm glad I bought XL because it really is a terrific game. Probably the only one in the series that I'm not shit at. My only real complaint that I could possibly think of is some of the acting is, to be blunt, laughably bad. Other than that, it is a solid game that I highly recommend checking out if you're into fighting games. They also had this Sega Genesis Flashback system here for 35 bucks. To me, that seems very cheap, but I don't know if this system has any emulation problems like the AtGames one apparently does. Either way, it was still really cool to see. I didn't even know they made a Flashback system for the Genesis. Then I went to another pawn shop actually a few days ago, and they also had a good variety of games from a handful of different systems. I was kind of confused about their pricing because it seemed like only a quarter of the games that I was picking out had price tags on them. Like that Command & Conquer for the PS3 had no visible price on it. There were a couple others I was looking at, like UFC 2 for PS4 and Blacklight Area 51 on the 360. Again, neither had a price. And just as I was about to ask one of the associates for a price, I saw this awesome bass guitar that was hanging on a rack. I think I probably stared at the thing for like 10 minutes because I knew exactly what this bass was. It's an Epiphone Goth Thunderbird 4. It's actually the same exact bass I've always wanted. And you know, as I was looking at it, I was going, it's probably going to be way out of my price range, and basically coming up with any excuse for me not to spend a lot of money on it. But then the associate told me it was only 200 bucks. That was way cheaper than I was expecting, and it's in pretty damn good shape. Yeah, there's a couple minor cosmetic issues, and I'm not super fond of this particular color of this model, but either way, I wanted this bass. I was gonna walk out of here with this bass no matter what. Look, I know it's not a video game, or a system, or anything related to video games, but I don't give a shit. This is probably the best thing I've bought since my DuckTales 2 find last year when I was at the flea market. This is gonna do it for today's video, boys and girls. As I always do, I want to thank you all very much for watching. Thank you to all my new subscribers as well as to my old timers. I'm more than likely going to include more footage from pawn shops now, considering that I got some pretty damn good deals between the two places, and they did have interesting stuff that I should have recorded for you all to see. So with that said, thank you all again for watching, and take care of yourselves.